Welcome to class, everyone. Today, we're stepping into a completely new role. In this explainer lesson, we're all going to become truth detectives. I want you to think about the sheer amount of information you see every single day, on your screens, in your textbooks, in the news. How do you actually know what's entirely true and what's just a carefully crafted story? Well, let's dive right into this and learn exactly how to evaluate the information we consume so we can start spotting the hidden traps of bias and omission. Now, before we even look at our roadmap for today, I want to anchor our lesson right here in this really powerful verse, Proverbs 28:23. God values honesty and the full, unvarnished truth over flattering or manipulated words. The Bible teaches us that hiding parts of the truth for personal gain, that's just not the path of wisdom. So, as we learn to be truth detectives today, remember that we're doing this because pursuing the absolute truth is, at its core, a God-honoring endeavor. So here's our game plan for today's explainer. We'll start with a pursuit of truth, figure out exactly what bias is, uncover the danger of omission, learn how to analyze the evidence, and wrap it all up with what it means to be a godly learner. Let's get right to it. Section 1. The pursuit of truth. Why the whole story matters. Think about where you get your information right now, whether you're endlessly scrolling through social media, binge-watching one of those super fast-paced documentaries on the weekend, or even just reading a news blog for a school project. You are constantly bombarded with half-truths. It's kind of like listening to a friend describe a fight they got into at recess, right? They almost always leave out the part where they started it. The crucial point here is that taking in one-sided stories can lead to unfair judgments, widespread misinformation, and ultimately bad decisions on your part. If an author only shares information that supports their specific viewpoint, you simply aren't getting the whole picture. Moving right along to Section 2. What is bias? Spotting loaded language and preferences. All right, first up on our detective checklist is bias. Bias is a preference or prejudice for or against something. And notice how it often hides right out in the open, in tone and in word choice. Bias is essentially an author trying to force their opinion onto you. They do this by using strongly loaded words or by carefully handpicking only the examples that make them look right. For example, when someone calls an idea outrageous or brilliant, but doesn't actually provide a shred of evidence to back it up, that is them showing their bias. Next up is omission. This happens when important facts or really crucial contexts are intentionally left out of a text, which entirely changes how a reader understands the topic. And let me tell you, just as dangerous as loud, obvious bias is the quiet act of omission. It happens when an author hides key pieces of the puzzle, basically making sure that you only see exactly what they want you to see. It's a lot like a movie trailer that only shows the two funny jokes in the entire film, leaving out the fact that the rest of the movie is incredibly boring. Your understanding is incomplete because the true details have been carefully hidden from you. And this brings up our biggest challenge as detectives. What happens when an author doesn't use obvious, angry, loaded words, but instead just quietly hides the facts? It is incredibly easy to spot a biased opinion when someone is shouting through their keyboard with exaggerated words, but it takes a highly trained truth detective to notice what isn't there. Which brings us to Section 3, the danger of omission, the invisible trap of missing facts. So how exactly do we defeat this invisible trap? Well, here is your three-step protocol. First, you've got to read your primary source very carefully. Second, and this is absolutely key, you must find and compare other sources on that exact same topic. To catch omission, you can't just read one single article and accept it as absolute truth. You have to cross-examine multiple sources. And third, when you notice differences, ask yourself, why did the first author leave these facts out? Are they intentionally hiding information to manipulate you, or did they simply not do their research? Let's go ahead and apply these concepts to some real-world examples. Time for Section 4, Analyzing the Evidence. Put your detective skills to work. Let's look at a side-by-side comparison. Consider Item 1. The mayor's reckless spending has ruined our city. Now consider Item 2. The mayor spent $5 million on the new city park. Look closely at the word choice there. The word reckless in that first sentence is a perfectly clear example of loaded language that reveals severe bias. There's no neutral explanation going on, just an aggressive opinion. Whereas the second sentence simply reports the balanced, undeniable facts without telling you how you're supposed to feel about them. Here's another case file, but this time dealing with omission. Item 1 is a news story that only highlights property damage during a protest. It focuses entirely on broken windows. Item 2 is a news story that explains the cause of the protest right alongside the reporting of that damage. Think about it. If a story omits the reasons why people were protesting, it removes the context entirely. Without that context, a reader is manipulated into thinking the event was entirely unjustified and random. That is the incredible danger of missing context. It changes the entire narrative. So, as truth detectives, what should we be looking for? The absolute gold standard is balanced reporting. A truly balanced text gives you both sides. It includes opinions from both supporters and critics. It provides a solid, objective, factual background so you can actually understand the whole situation. And crucially, it completely avoids emotional, loaded vocabulary. A balanced reporter respects your intelligence enough to just give you the facts and let you decide for yourself. Okay, to lock in these new academic skills, here is your homework assignment for the week. First, I want you to define bias and give me one unique example. Second, define omission and explain in your own words why it matters when you're reading informational texts. Third, let's test your loaded language radar. Identify the bias word in the sentence, "The brilliant policy saved the country." Fourth, I want you to go find a real news article today and describe one detail that might have been omitted. And finally, explain how comparing multiple sources helps reveal those omissions. And finally, we arrive at Section 5, the Godly Learner, Wisdom in Action. Here at HeroesMart Academy, we intentionally intertwine biblical morality directly with your education. And the reason is simple. Education without morality can genuinely hurt. Knowledge and intelligence should help you make wise, God-honoring choices, rather than simply making you more capable of arguing. We absolutely want you to be capable, yes, but far more importantly, we want you to be righteous. Romans 8:6-7 teaches us this beautifully. The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. Keeping your mind spiritually focused ensures that as you grow academically sharper and smarter in this class, your decisions and the way you process all this information will ultimately lead to life and peace. You'll be building up the world with truth rather than tearing it down with half-truths. So as you go tackle your homework, I encourage you to pursue academic excellence, but always keep your mind centered on God, truth, wisdom, and righteous choices. I want to leave you with this final question to think about. Will you use your sharp mind just to be capable, or will you use your skills as a truth detective to actively seek truth and honor God in everything you do? Have a great week, students. Happy investigating.